People often ask, if you could bring one book to a deserted island, what would it be? The answer to that question would reflect much upon the person, their values and their beliefs, their personality and priorities. The book they chose has had a profound impact on their life, and I believe that video games have that same effect, that video games, as a medium, has the power to move people. From the comment section of any of my videos, I can see that I have some very opinionated viewers, so I wanted to pose this question to you all. What is the video game that helped you grow as a person? For me, this is Suikoden 2. The cult classic of the tragic Konami, there is a reason why this PlayStation 1 game appears in so many Forgotten Gem listicles. It is often described as the Game of Thrones of video games because of how many twists and turns the story takes, and just the scope of the plot and the conflict. While all of this is true, it never stops being personal to the player as you see war from the eyes of someone who was just caught up in it. One of my favorite things about RPGs is meeting new characters. When a new character joins your band, they bring a host of new tactical elements which can change the way you strategize. They will also bring their own personality and points of view, which can make exploring the world all the more richer. Will they butt heads with one of your other party members? Or will they find a kindred soul among them? Finding out was always a delight, especially if they were written well. When I heard that Suikoden 2 had 108 characters, I thought it must be a joke or a misprint, so out of curiosity I booted up the game. Just minutes after naming your character, you are drawn into a web of intrigue as the fires of war are slowly lit. Needless to say, I was invested. As I played further into the game and eventually reached Toto Village, Ellie, Rina, and Bolgan would eventually leave your party. I thought this is how the game is structured. There are 108 characters, but they will come and go with your party. I really had no idea what the scope of the game was. The game really makes the Highland Kingdom feel like such an all-encompassing shadow. As they slowly creep through the Jostin city-states, towns and areas become inaccessible as the kingdom soldiers prevent you from entering. Not to mention Luca Blight's sadistic glee makes them look almost inhuman. Local politics make forming a united front impossible. Any semblance of resistance is quickly quashed as betrayal and conspiracy consumes everyone. When it feels like you have escaped the dangers of war, the Highland Kingdom catches up with you and you are forced to flee from them again and again. To turn the tide, the city-states needs a figurehead to rally behind, and this comes in three forms: Dunan Castle, the New State Army, and you, the bearer of the True Shield rune. After acquiring the castle, you are tasked with finding allies to help your cause, and this is when the game truly opens its world to you. The feeling I had at this point is comparable to the feeling that players of Final Fantasy VII had when they finally reached the world map. I just realized how massive in scope the game was. All those curious NPCs with portraits and unique sprites, I could probably recruit those. Places I had been to before could be revisited, and perhaps a new ally would be waiting. I was incredibly incentivized to explore the world to discover allies hidden away. Every recruitable character was their own little side quest, and I was determined to find everyone. I was seeing the whole game in a brand new light. Every party member had gorgeous pixel art and unique animations. Some of them had really interesting weapons like slingshots and claws. Your party could have wolves, elves, and even robots. You had to balance between weapon types, formations, access to runes, unique skill runes, and team-up combinations. Even with 5 members in your party, you could still be paralyzed for choice. Well, until you get Peshmerga, Georg, and Mazus, having those 3 in your party activates the game's easy mode. However, not everyone was a fighter. Some would open up shops, some would store your items, some would give you a map, some would just remind you of what you are supposed to do. Regardless, all of them would have an impact on your home base as you saw it grow in size. Richmond was definitely my favorite since he would give you leads on where to find recruitable characters and tips on how to get them. This narrative of forming your own army was reinforced not just by the Pokemon-style collecting of characters, it was in everything. The tactics battle, the base building, what is the 5 great MacGuffins that you need to collect to fight against the great evil? It isn't magic crystals, relics, or weapons, but alliances from the other city-states. By earning the trust of each one of the leaders, you can slowly amass a force strong enough to stand against the Highland Kingdom. As I saw everyone contributing to the war effort, whether it was leading their own regiment of soldiers into battle or just doing the laundry, I started to feel like I had a chance of winning this war. Obviously, this was going to be the ending, but the shadow that you had to run away from for the first third of the game didn't seem that overwhelming when you saw your army grow in size. Perhaps the reason why I like meeting new characters in RPGs was because I was always lonely as a child, but I could never admit that to myself. I went to a private school where I was surrounded by kids who came from very rich families, so I couldn't really relate to the things they talked about. I have a loving family, and I often told myself that this was enough. I reinforced the idea that friends were just liabilities. At the end of the day, you were always alone, so you had no one but yourself to rely on. I thought I had everything figured out. This is the game that taught me how to open up and trust people. While my time as a loner taught me much, if I wanted to make an impact on the world, then my concerns had to go beyond just myself. I had to accept that there were just some things I wasn't good at, and there was no shame in asking others to help me. After a while, I stopped living in my own head and tried talking to other people. This was not a simple lesson, but it was an essential one. Just as Suikoden 2 showed me, there are people who were deserving of your trust, and there are those who would betray yours. I had to learn who to trust and how to earn their trust. I had to learn empathy, savviness, and intuition. Removing people from your life entirely was leaving me emotionally stunted, and only then did I start to realize how much I still had to learn. I learned their stories, hopes, and dreams. I learned their aspirations and anxieties. Most importantly, I learned that everyone had something to teach you. You need but listen. Sometimes it is from their experience. Sometimes it is from their wisdom. Other times, their mistakes. So many things in this world can feel overwhelming, but when you are facing it with other people, supporting you in any way they can, then it doesn't feel so gargantuan. No one is expecting you to do this alone. Find those who would stand by you, keep them close, and move forward together. So, what is the game that helped you grow as a person? I want to hear all about it. Leave a comment. While this isn't the usual kind of content I put out, if this interests you, consider subscribing. Maybe I will make more in the future. Until our paths cross again, see you, True Rune Holder.